Evcol Entertainment presents The Raven, based on The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Is there anyone there? Oh, for goodness sake, come in. Look, enter if you must. If not, then leave me be. I'm in no mood for visitors this evening. Good. I need to be alone. Oh, my dearest. For goodness sake, can't people leave me alone? I have no time for such games. Surely it's not a time for visitors anyway. The storm rages. It's not safe to be outdoors on a night such as this. My dearest Leonore, surely with the angels. I am hoping with my heart of hearts that all is peaceful where you are. It is what you deserve, not driving rain and shouting of an angry sky. At least I can countenance that thought. Oh, the storm is a violent one, enough to shake the very foundations of this old place. Grandfather would have been pleased. Built to see out 7 generations, he told me countless times. And he could well be right. Though the rain is heavy and the river close by. Let's hope we don't see flooding. That would spoil this year's harvest. But that can be sorted out in the morning. Oh, this is intolerable. If someone wishes to make their presence known, then they should just do that and not pester a woman in mourning. I tell you one last time, let yourself be known or beat a hasty retreat from this place. My patience is all but at an end. Surely this cannot be. A raven. You're a ways from home, my friend. Was it you tapping earlier? If you could only have answered, spoken to me, then I wouldn't have lost my temper and shouted out so. Here was me thinking it was someone at the door when it was you at my window lattice all along. So you need refuge from the storm and you saw my light. That's why you're here, to dry your feathers and warm yourself by the fire. Then let me stoke the fire and make the room warmer for both of us. Now then, let me look at you. My, you are a stately creature. Noble, in fact. I bet you maintain a position within your lot. And I see you found a befitting perch to rest upon. Befitting is indeed the right word, for that is a bust of Pallas, or the ancient Greek goddess Athena, known for her wisdom. Tell me, are you wise? Or is it wisdom you seek? From me? I'm not sure whether I'm the appropriate woman for the task. I am indeed educated, intelligent to a point, but not an intellectual. No, that was my father and grandfather, and my brother, if I must be honest. But alas, not me. I am a woman of business, but also someone who takes great pleasure in prose and poetry and history. My goodness, what we can learn, but seemingly rarely do from what has gone before. You know, I'm glad that you're here. I was of a mind that I'd like to spend the evening alone with my thoughts. It has been a trying time for me. But then you arrive, this beguiling ebony bird who has distracted me from my melancholy to entertain a proper decorum as to the situation. Indeed, it is most fortuitous, else I'd more than likely drink the whole decanter of brandy and be in a state of drunken disarray, much to the dismay of my estranged husband, though that still is an option. I say proper decorum, as if there is a right and wrong way of feeling the sense of loss. But then, who is to say which is right and which is wrong? We all look upon the same matter in different ways, but the sight of you has lightened my mood and has lifted my spirits somewhat. Before you arrived, I had begun to think that this night would do nothing more than take my soul to a dark and hellish place, a Plutonian place. I'm not sure whether you understand what I mean by that. It's a reference to the god Pluto, he who rules the underworld. But with your shorn crest you conjure images to me of a knight of old, a knight who lost his courage. And when knights lost their courage, they had their heads shaven to humiliate them. Awful when you think about it. Imagine battling and fighting for your king and country. And then in a moment of weakness, a moment when your nerve leaves you, someone decides that your cowardice should be laid bare to all. One might say that about me, drinking as I am doing, trying to forget. Or am I trying to remember? One can't tell as one sips further. Maybe today we deal with our cowardice through grape and grain. Though in polite society it's better to do that behind closed doors, especially if you're a woman. Methinks the night is best spent with musical accompaniment. With no disrespect to present company, of course, but it calms me, helps me think. Where were we? Yes, I was talking about courage. You know, this conversation would be so much easier if you told me your name. It would be improper and downright rude to call such a noble guest as simply Bird, now wouldn't it? What do you say? I see. Well, one might call it strange or unnatural for a bird to respond in a human voice. Supernatural, in fact. But then, realistically, who would believe me if I told them of such a thing? They'd probably lock me up and throw away the key. Now that would be frightening. But then again, maybe not. It would allow me much-needed solitude. But it would be on someone else's terms, and I couldn't have that. No, I'm in charge of my own destiny, and I must embrace what peace and quiet I can, when I can. It looks as though we have company. Enter. Jameson, just the person. Tell me, would you credit it? We have a guest, a noble, statuesque guest. What do you say to that?
It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Forgive me, madam, I heard you talking and am inquiring if there's anything that you need. I didn't realise you had company.
Oh, Jameson, always so formal. Say, I wonder if you'd be so good as to inquire the name of our guest.
Would you like me to ask you the name of your guest?
No, ask him yourself. Maybe you'll get the answer I can't.
Sir, the Lady Elizabeth inquires as to your name.
Again, Jameson, again.
Sir, may I inquire as to your name? It appears, madam, that your guest is reluctant to converse with me.
Yes, he's indeed a strange one. But don't you think he looks as though he's from noble stock? Doesn't he hold a strong pose, commanding?
Yes, indeed, madam.
You know, he's said only one word so far during our evening's conversation. Can you imagine what that word was?
Well, not knowing the gentleman, I am sure such a word eludes me presently.
Oh, Jameson, I do enjoy our banter. He uttered the word nevermore. Now, does that mean anything to you?
I'm afraid not, madam. Would you like me to refill the decanter?
Yes, of course. But fill the glass for me before you leave. I'm going to continue my conversation with our guest.
Is there anything else you may need, madam?
No, nothing I can think of.
Then I shall return presently with the brandy.
Thank you, Jameson. Thank you. Very good of you. You know, there was a time when this house used to ring with the sound of laughter, parties, music, people, friends. But as the years passed by, those friends disappeared, venturing off to pastures new. They seemed to forget, leaving one behind. Of course, many of them were my husband's friends. I seemed to melt into the background until I started standing up for myself. But that was frowned upon, especially by William. My husband didn't like me having an opinion, let alone expressing it at all. There has come a time when I now feel abandoned, and possibly the same will happen with you. We'll spend the evening in delightful conversation, and in the morning you'll be gone, flying off to wherever you have come from. But forgive me for dampening the mood. I like to think of myself as ever the optimist, though circumstances of late have made me question this, leaving me with a feeling of hopelessness. I see that is a favourite word of yours. I must admit, although a disconcerting phrase, it is a powerful one, though I search my mind for a plausible explanation of what it means. Is it the only phrase you know, your stock and store? I might hazard a guess as to its origins, if I may. You may think me bold, and I apologise for that, but being an avid reader of a variety of literature, one can't help thinking that this one word you utter holds the secret to your past. After all, we all have at least one story in us, don't we? Could it be that your owner, someone who no longer walks this earth, was of a delicate disposition, depressed maybe, whose life and circumstances was in such upheaval that all they could utter was this word, nevermore? This person, likely a man, but possibly a woman, devastated by what life had dealt them, took their own life, and you, sensing that they were no more, took flight and have been travelling the land ever since, looking for a place to call home. No, I think not. I look at you, into your eyes, and see signs of a grim, ungainly, ghastly and gaunt bird, which to some has the appearance of something scary, though I do not include myself amongst those numbers. I believe, my friend, that your circumstance needs further inquiry.
Lady Elizabeth, may I refresh your drink?
What? Yes, of course, thank you.
Dr. Anderson has arrived.
It's a little late for house calls.
It appears that he's been concerned about you since the incidents this afternoon, and is inquiring as to your well-being.
Well, that's very decent of him, but there's absolutely no need to worry. Actually, why don't you bring the doctor in? Maybe he will have more luck with our guest.
As you wish, madam. I shall return presently with the doctor.
Thank you, Jameson. You're like the good doctor. I see a lot of promise in this man. He's unlike older members of his profession. He has a keen interest in ailments of the mind and a strong belief that more women should be allowed into the profession. Maybe he can be of assistance to you. Oh, please, forgive me. I just wanted to show you comfort, but I can see that you prefer to sit untouched and in silence. Silence, so someone once said, is golden. And at times it can say more than any amount of words. But your silence intrigues me. Only a few syllables have you uttered, yet your burning eyes feel as though they are searing right into me, into my very soul. What's left of my soul, anyway? As I look around the room, thinking of the memories it holds for me, I find myself harking back to those much happier times. Times when my Leonore would sit there, on that very chair, that very cushion, her face illuminated by firelight. Those days are now gone, and yet they preoccupy my mind more than ever, more than they did when she sat there. Such is my feeling of loss. Ah, Doctor.
Lady Elizabeth.
Good to see you, though it's a little late for a house call.
I took it upon myself to see how you were doing, especially after recent events.
Well, that's very kind of you, but there really was no need. A drink? Brandy?
Yes, thank you. That would be most welcome.
You certainly picked a night for a visit.
Indeed, it has taken a turn for the worst, hasn't it? It was merely cloudy when I set out.
So you thought I needed seeing to, did you?
Well, the loss of anyone can be traumatic, but a close friend, and in such circumstances, well, one needs to be safe rather than sorry, do you not think?
And I thank you for your concern, but you really shouldn't have troubled yourself. As it happens, I've been visited by another.
Oh?
Forgive my manners. I should have made introductions earlier. I'd like you to meet the most noble of creatures, although he doesn't say much.
Pallas? Noble indeed.
No, not the bust, the bird, the raven perched upon it. That is of whom I speak.
I see. And how long has this bird been here?
He arrived just as the storm became ferocious. He was tapping at my window. I made a bit of a fool of myself, shouting out, thinking it was someone at the door, when it was this fine creature knocking at my window all along.
Yes. Lizzie, you say your guest doesn't engage in any conversation. Well, might I ask then what in fact he has said to you?
Nevermore.
Nevermore?
Yes.
Nothing else?
No.
I see.
That is all.
And do you know the context or meaning of this nevermore?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
But I'm sure it's of consequence.
Yes.
Some would say it impossible for a bird to speak in human tongue, but not I. Not today. Do you think it's strange?
That a bird should speak, or that it knows only one word?
Both.
Well, it is a well-known fact that certain species of birds can indeed be trained to speak, though I have never known a raven to have done so. Now, as for the word nevermore, I must say I am quite at a loss as to what that means.
And you doctors profess to know everything.
Now, I have never boasted of such a notion, you know that. However, knowledge and the seeking of such have always played an important role in our profession.
Indeed. But how strange that this bird should visit me this very evening, particularly when my mind and thoughts are not at, how shall we say, their best.
Yes, that I can agree with. Lizzie, does the fact that it is a raven have any significance to you?
Not in the slightest. I'm just fascinated by both him and his company. Do you smell that?
What is it?
It's Leonore's scent. It's like Nepenthe. Oh, it reminds me of her.
Lizzie, I can't smell anything. Are you sure you're not imagining?
Do you hear something?
No.
There it is again.
I can't hear anything.
Footsteps, unless I'm very much mistaken. Excuse me, I must see.
Yes.
Jameson, have you just walked by this door? I can't locate Jameson, though I'm sure it wasn't him outside. Are you positive you didn't hear anything?
Absolutely. Perhaps it was the storm.
No, it was inside the house. Footsteps outside that door. They sounded like a woman's footsteps, I'm sure of it. And there's that perfume smell again. Henry, are you... You can't.
I'm quite positive. Lizzie, forgive me, but have you been drinking all night?
I have had a few measures, but nothing out of the ordinary. Why do you ask? Are you suggesting...
I am not suggesting anything. I am making practical inquiries, that's all. Now, don't get excited. It is a well-known fact that alcohol in sufficient quantities can induce the brain into believing that there are odours which aren't in fact there. Phantom odours. Now, listen to me now. The footsteps of which you speak, Lizzie, they could be anything from a branch knocking against the window pane outside to a person walking in another part of the house and the echo being heard there.
I assure you that I am of sound mind and body, and that what I smelt and heard is very real.
To you, perhaps. But to another, that may not be the case. But these are just thoughts, Lizzie. That's all. Mere suggestions as to a possible explanation. Nothing more.
Forgive me, Doctor, I'm a wretch. For a moment I was sure that God had sent a sign. Leonore's perfume, trying to help comfort me, to aid me with my grief. But it's had the opposite effect. Let us have another drink. I need to forget Leonore. The hurt and emptiness is killing me.
I can prescribe a tincture for that, Lizzie, if you feel it would help. I think rather than increased quantities of alcohol.
No, I think that the brandy will suffice. Doctor, tell me you heard that.
Lizzie, I didn't hear anything. I think we should get you to your bed. Sleep is what's needed, I'm certain of it, and it's quite possible that you could be suffering from exhaustion.
I'm not even remotely tired. I tell you, the raven, it called out the name Nevermore again. I tell you the bird can speak, and I still don't know the word's meaning.
I am sure you're right. However, tonight my concern is that you are overwrought and you are allowing every little matter to play on your mind.
Doctor, do you think it's a thing of evil? A visitor from Satan? The raven? Or maybe it's just been blown in by the storm. Oh, my mind is awash of thoughts right now.
I am sure that the bird has arrived here tonight by chance, Lizzie. As you say, blown in by the storm.
But he sits there perched, undaunted by his circumstance. Do you think he is unimpeded by his surroundings? After all, a bird is a creature of the open sky, and him here in this constrained room must seem at odds with his natural environment. Maybe he feels the onset of cowardice, frozen in fright because of his situation? Whichever it is, he gives the appearance of being completely unshaken. What say you to that, Doctor?
I think presently your mind is awash with many notions, Lizzie. Perhaps the answer right now is not to think. For the moment, just let be what is.
Maybe you're right. I do feel so alone. As if I'm standing in the middle of an endless desert land, haunted by events. Haunted without possibility of comfort. Is there balm in Gilead?
There is hope. We always have that.
I wonder. Why do you torment me so?
Madam.
For goodness sake, Lizzie, what is the matter?
Nevermore. Nevermore. Surely you heard it that time.
I didn't hear anything.
In the name of God, will I ever get to embrace my beloved Leonore again? Let my soul, so sorrow-laden, be by her side in heaven.
Lizzie, enough. Come with me. Let's sit you down. I think, although it's against my better judgment, you have another sip of brandy to calm your nerves.
Oh, Jameson, I thought you were outside the door earlier, but there was no one there. You fiend, let that be your parting word. Begone from my presence. I shall entertain your company no longer.
Lizzie?
Doctor, shoo that bird out of my sight. Let it embrace the storm and leave me in peace once and for all. Let it leave no trace of ever being here, not even a plume.
Shoo!
What, don't just stand there, give the man a hand.
Yes, madam. Shoot.
Go on! Get out of here!
Shoot.
Go on! Shoo! Go!
Shoot.
Go on! Be gone, I said! There, Lizzie. There. 'Tis gone from here now.
You must have shooed his friend, 'cause the damned creature is still perched there looking right at me. Remove yourself from Pallas. Take your beak out of my heart and go to hell. You must show no mercy. Be direct. You dare to challenge me in my own home. You dare to engulf me in your black heart. Is it my very soul that you try to imprison? It has been tried before. Better folk than you have challenged me and have borne witness to my wrath. I am not a woman to be toyed with.
Lizzie?
Only a short while ago, you said, just let be what it is.
Indeed.
Well, can't you see that that cannot be so?
I am unsure as to what you mean.
This bird, this ebony creature of the grave will not let things be what they are. It cannot let me be with my thoughts of the one I loved, enjoying cherished moments. No, it comes in the night on the wave of a storm and brings with it such feelings of emptiness and wrenching heartache that by design drive a woman to her wit's end. It is a prophet, a thing of evil, a servant of the devil. It has come to torment me for what I have done. Oh, heavens, what have I done? I tried to take hold of her hand, but the water, it prevented me from securing a grip. Oh, it was such a beautiful afternoon. Bright sunshine. For a moment I thought that neither of us had a care in the world. It was becoming difficult for me to hide what I had discovered. You see, Doctor, I knew her love for me was waning, that she had affections for another. My jealousy was at times uncontrollable. How dare she do this to me? That was all I could think about. What had made things even worse, if they could be, was that this other was in fact my husband, Sir William. How irony rears its ugly head. I had suggested an afternoon on the water. Thought it was romantic, that if I could show her how much I loved her, then she would return to me. I know how foolish that sounds, but when you're in love, your heart will play terrible tricks on your mind. Doctor, I hope my confession does not alarm you. But then, the breeze caught her parasol, and her grasp wasn't enough to hold it. It landed on the water. Only moments earlier it had been so still, like a mirror. You could consider it and see a perfect reflection. But now, with the wind, there were ripples, everything became distorted. She reached for the blessed thing. I scolded her, warned her that she would fall in. I remember her laughing at me, her smiling face mocking my warnings, telling me that I didn't have to worry about her, that she could take care of herself. I remember getting angry with her, angry at her dismissing my concern. Still she mocked. There was a disdain in her voice. I stood suddenly. I remember thinking, you shouldn't be doing this, standing in a boat. But I was incensed at her defiance, and my mind was filled with an overwhelming rage. How dare she? It was my sole thought. How dare she? She reached out again for the accoutrement, showing absolute indifference to my words, and in anger and with haste I moved towards her. My moving caused the boat to tip, and within moments we were both thrown. I remember thinking how cool and refreshing the water felt against my skin, but that thought quickly vanished, and my one and only concern was for Leonore. The water was clear for a few feet below the surface, but as it became deeper, there was a dark and murky look and feel. I couldn't see anything. I remember breaking the surface and looking around to see if she was there, but other than the upturned boat and a floating oar, it was empty. I swam around to the other side of the craft and called out her name at the top of my voice again and again, but no answer. But then there was a sound of splashing water, and I could see her behind me fighting desperately to remain afloat. I swam as fast as I could to get to her. She dipped under the surface time after time, but I knew where she was. As I reached her, she was going under again, but I dove down and grabbed her arm. It was difficult to get a firm grip, but I did. At least I thought I did. The water was clear enough for me to see her face. It was so pale, though the very life was being drained from it. With all my strength, I tried to pull her upwards to the surface. She'd been under for a while and clearly needed air. But no matter how hard I tried, she continued to descend into the darkened depths. With one last pull, I tried to save her, but her garments were so filled with water and heavy, I had not the strength to. As she drifted downwards, her arm reached out to mine, and I swear I could see her beautiful face, one that once bore such an infectious smile, turned from a look of radiance to one of anger, her eyes black, her lips tightly pursed. I couldn't save her, I couldn't. Or didn't I try hard enough? No matter what words of comfort and condolence I hear, I fear she will never forgive me for what has happened. I look within myself and wonder if my thoughts were vengeful at that moment, whether I purposely didn't exert every effort to save her, whether I wanted her to die. After all, if I couldn't have her, then nobody could.
I am sure that is not the case, Lizzie.
Take thy beak from out of my heart, and take thy form from my door.
Evcol Entertainment presents The Raven. Written, directed and produced by Simon James Collier. Based on The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Assistant Director Helen Elliott. Soundscape Design James Nicholson. Co-producer Adam Dechanel. Recorded at the Umbrella Rooms Studio London. Engineer Ben Robbins. Graphic Design Clockwork Digital Studios. Cast: Helen Sterling Lane, Mitch Howell and Michael Herrera.